Hi, I'm Claire Bennett, and if you told me a year ago that I'd be smiling while my roommate confessed she was pregnant with my boyfriend's baby, I would have called you insane. But here I am, standing in the middle of our shared dorm room with the late afternoon sunlight slanting through the blinds, turning the corners of my lips upward in a smile so calm it felt almost rehearsed. Jessica Miller, my roommate of 2 years, was holding out an ultrasound report like it was some twisted badge of victory. "Claire," she said, smug satisfaction rolling off her tongue. "I'm pregnant. With Ryan's child." I didn't even blink. I glanced down at the paper, noting the grainy blob labeled live fetus, 6 weeks and 1 day. The familiar ache that once twisted in my gut when Ryan hurt me was absent. Instead, there was an odd sort of peace. I looked up, my eyes meeting hers evenly. "That's great. Congratulations to both of you," she faltered. Her smirk wilted at the edges. "Wait, you're not mad?" she asked, baffled, eyes narrowing in confusion. I shook my head, brushing invisible dust off my sleeve like it didn't matter. "Not mad. Disgusted, sure. But I'm not wasting my anger on either of you. Ryan's all yours." I turned and reached for my phone on the desk beside my laptop, ignoring how Jessica's mouth opened like she was about to hurl more venom. "Well," she said, voice rising defensively, "you'll see. Ryan isn't some loser. We're going to be a real family. He said he's going to marry me after graduation." I nodded politely, as if I were listening to someone announce their intention to adopt a raccoon. "That's nice. I hope you two have a wonderful life together far away from me." She left in a huff, probably confused by my indifference. But I wasn't done. The moment she slammed the door, I dialed my father. The line clicked, and I didn't even let him greet me before I said, "Dad, cut off all financial support to Ryan Carter." We broke up. My dad, a man of few words but immediate action, replied within seconds, "Understood. Proud of you." I hung up and stared at my reflection in the dark screen of my laptop. The old Claire would have cried for days, maybe even begged Ryan for an explanation he never owed me. But this version of Met His Reborn, unflinching version had no intention of repeating the past. In my previous life, Ryan and I had fallen for each other during a shared lecture series. He was the charismatic boy who looked like he belonged on a California beach, all sun-kissed charm and crooked smiles. I was the girl from the local elite family, an only child, pampered but not spoiled, who saw something raw and genuine in the boy who worked nights in the cafeteria to pay for textbooks. When I found out about his financial troubles, I went straight to my father. I remember the conversation vividly. "It's not much, just tuition and a little for meals," I'd said, cheeks flushed with the kind of innocent love that makes you believe generosity can fix everything. My dad smiled indulgently. "If it makes my daughter happy, he can have it." Ryan quit his job the next week and suddenly began dressing better, eating out more. He never thanked me. He just started acting like it was his due. Still, I was head over heels. I bought him branded jackets, the newest iPhones, even surprised him with tickets to music festivals. I thought that was love, giving everything, expecting nothing. Until that day in my past life when Jessica shoved the ultrasound into my hands and the sky came crashing down. I'd cried like a madwoman, screamed at Ryan, tore photos off the walls, and cursed every kiss we'd ever shared. He'd had the audacity to shrug and say, "It's just a mistake. Guys mess up. I still love you." Then I fainted from crying and landed in the infirmary. Jessica ended up dying in a car crash on the way to get an abortion. A tragic twist that no one took responsibility for, least of all Ryan. I should have ended it all there, but I didn't. I was weak. I stayed. Until the day I didn't. This time around, there would be no staying. There would be no room for pity. Only distance and consequences. That evening, Ryan finally returned my call. His voice oozed annoyance. "What is it?" I sat by the window, legs curled under me, watching students pass by below in groups, laughter bouncing off the dorm walls. "Let's break up," I said flatly. Silence. Then a scoff. "Claire, what are you doing now? Playing the spoiled rich girl card again?" I didn't rise to the bait. No drama, Orion. Just goodbye. He exhaled hard through his nose, clearly irritated.
Fine.
Don't come crying to me when you realize what you lost. And for the record, next time you try to win me back, better come with a new iPhone. I didn't laugh at the time, but I smiled as I hung up. The irony was too rich. I set my phone down, opened my laptop, and typed a single sentence into my journal app. Today, I chose myself. The following morning, the dorm room was drenched in pale gold light, and despite the peace outside, I could feel the tension vibrating through the walls like a distant hum. Jessica didn't return last night, but that wasn't surprising. What did surprise me, however, was how easily I slipped back into routine brushing my hair, clicking through lecture slides, sipping lukewarm coffee without the usual hollowness clawing at my ribs. My heart had stopped breaking. It was now rebuilding. Around noon, the door burst open and Jessica sauntered in with a self-important flair, dragging a tiny pink suitcase behind her. She barely glanced at me before turning to the other two girls in the room, Katie and Sophie, who were lounging near the window. "I'm moving out," she announced, her voice sugary sweet but loud enough to draw attention from 3 rooms down. Sophie looked up from her laptop, eyebrows raised.
Why?
"My boyfriend's parents bought him a place near campus," Jessica said proudly, letting the words float like glitter in the air. "It has a full bath, huge kitchen, and a walk-in closet. He says the guest bedroom is too lonely without me," so she trailed off, letting her smile complete the sentence. Katie clapped a little too eagerly. "That sounds amazing. He must be loaded." "He is," Jessica replied without blinking. "And he takes such good care of me. He said I don't need to lift a finger, I'll do all the cooking and cleaning. Even washes my socks." That one was clearly for my benefit. I didn't respond. I had my earbuds in, but no music playing. I just wanted to listen, observe, let her dig the hole deeper with every exaggerated claim. Eventually, she circled back to me. "Claire," she said, dropping her voice like we shared some private joke, "I'm glad you broke up with Ryan. It makes things easier." I turned slightly, facing her halfway, my tone calm but edged with ice. "That's sweet of you to say. But just so we're clear, I didn't break up with him for you. I broke up with him because he's garbage." Jessica's smile wavered. "You really don't seem heartbroken." I reached for my water bottle on the desk and poured a splash into the glass beside it. Why would I be heartbroken over losing a liar? I flicked the edge of the glass, and water splashed across the table right onto Jessica's designer knockoff blouse. She gasped and took 2 steps back, clutching her belly like I'd thrown acid. "What the hell, Claire?" "Oh no," I said with mock horror. Clumsy me. I guess I'm still adjusting to this new scumbag-free life. Katie and Sophie stared, caught between amusement and discomfort. Jessica's jaw worked like she wanted to scream, but she didn't. She couldn't, not with witnesses. She pasted on a brittle smile and backed out of the room, muttering something about prenatal vitamins. As the door clicked shut, Sophie turned to me, eyes wide.
"Claire."
"What, mistress?" I didn't flinch. "She's been living with Ryan. She's pregnant. You do the math." Katie let out a soft, "Oh," and exchanged a glance with Sophie, who whispered, "We always felt like something was off. Honestly, I never thought Ryan was good enough for you anyway. He always came off kinda greasy." "Totally," Katie agreed. "Remember that girl in our lit class last semester? The one with the crop top and ripped jeans?" He stared at her for 45 minutes straight. Sophie wrinkled her nose. "So gross." I nodded, savoring the honesty in their words now that the truth was out. Jessica had tried so hard to spin her new life into a fairy tale, but even fairy tales have villains. The difference now was I wasn't playing the innocent princess anymore. I was rewriting the script. That afternoon, I wandered through campus with Olivia, my best friend from the dorm next door. The trees were beginning to bloom again, branches stretching across the walkway like an arch of resilience. Olivia handed me a strawberry smoothie. "So, what's next?" she asked. Honestly, I took a sip, letting the sweetness coat my tongue. Nothing. No revenge plans. No drama. Just peace. She studied me for a second and then nodded.
Good.
But if Ryan shows up acting crazy, you know I've got your back. I took kickboxing over winter break. I grinned. Noted. I'll keep you on speed dial. We stopped at the fountain in front of a science building, watching the water dance in the sunlight. You've really changed, Olivia said. In a good way. It's like you woke up and decided to stop bleeding for people who wouldn't even hand you a bandage. I exhaled slowly, the sound catching in my throat like a sigh of recognition.
Yeah.
I think I finally understand what love isn't. That evening, Ryan called me. Again. The fourth time that week. This time, I answered. What? I said, not bothering with pleasantries. Claire, don't hang up. Just listen for a second. You told your dad to cut me off, didn't you? His assistant told me the money's been stopped. Yes, I replied coolly. That was intentional. His breath hitched on the other end. You're insane. I can't pay rent, Claire. My food budget is not my problem. Jesus, you really are heartless. Ryan, I said, voice dropping into a lethal softness. You cheated. You lied. You used me. And you want my sympathy? It's not like that. You don't understand what it's like to have nothing. No, I agreed. But I understand what it's like to give everything to someone who doesn't appreciate it. And I'm done doing that. His silence stretched long enough for me to picture his face, flushed with frustration, eyes darting for some clever retort that wouldn't come. You're a bitch, he finally hissed. Then don't call me again. I ended the call and blocked his number. Again. That night, as I lay in bed beneath my plush white comforter, the room quiet and the city buzzing softly beyond the window, I allowed myself one final thought of him. One last image of the boy I once believed in, his smile, his laugh, his hand in mine, and then I exhaled, slow and deep, and let it drift away into nothing. 2 days later, I came back to the dorm after a full day of classes, only to find Jessica's bed stripped clean and her desk bare except for a single chipped mug with lipstick stains. Katie was folding laundry on her bed, her music playing low from a Bluetooth speaker. She glanced up when I walked in. She moved out this afternoon, she said casually, folding a hoodie with lazy efficiency. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't need to, I muttered, tossing my tote onto my chair.
But then I noticed something off.
My closet door, the one I always locked when I left, was slightly ajar. My fingers prickled with an instinct I didn't want to acknowledge. I opened it fully, heart rate steady but rising, and within seconds I saw what was missing. My LV Neverfull bag was gone. So was the Gucci Marmont sling I kept in the cloth pouch. I whipped around, eyes scanning the room. My shelf above the desk looked lighter too. 2 Chanel perfumes, both gifts from my mother, had vanished without a trace. The realization didn't hit me like a slap. It hit more like a cold wind sliding up my spine, biting through fabric, deliberate and quiet. I turned to Katie. Did you see anyone near my stuff? She looked startled. No, I mean she was packing, but we didn't look too close. Why? Jessica stole from me. The words came out calm. Flat.
Too calm.
Sophie poked her head in from the hallway. What's going on? I'm calling the police, I said. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply reached for my phone and dialed 911 like I was reporting a noise complaint. When the officers arrived 20 minutes later, Katie and Sophie stood silently near the window, arms crossed, eyes wary. I laid out everything that had gone missing: bags, perfume, even a small Cartier ring that had been in the zip pocket of my tote. They asked if I had suspects.
I didn't hesitate.
Jessica Miller. She moved out today. She was the only one who knew where I kept my keys. They nodded and questioned my roommates briefly. Both denied involvement. The police conducted a quick search of the room. Nothing. They took my statement and promised to investigate. I knew they didn't expect much to come of it, but I'd done what I needed to do. That evening, as I was eating dinner with Olivia, Sophie came over holding out her phone. Jessica called. She wants to speak with you. I took the phone with a sigh. pressed it to my ear, and said nothing. Her voice crackled on the other end. Claire, seriously? You called the cops? Over some stuff? Are you that petty? I didn't respond. Fine, she hissed. Yes, I took a couple of bags by accident. I was rushing and didn't check the contents. I'll bring them back, okay? Just call the police and tell them it was a mistake. Please. I leaned back in my chair, eyes flickering to the half-melted candle on the table. It wasn't a mistake, Jessica. You opened a locked cabinet and dug out things that didn't belong to you. You locked it? And I mean, she stammered, her voice slipping. Look, I didn't think it through. I was stressed.
Pregnant.
You wouldn't understand. You're right, I said softly. I wouldn't understand stealing from someone who took nothing from you. There was silence on the other end, followed by a sudden shift in tone, sharp and accusatory. Claire, I'm warning you. If you don't withdraw the complaint, I'm going to the station myself. You'll regret this. I let out a soft laugh. Go ahead. Then I ended the call. The next morning, Olivia and I walked into the police station together, my documents neatly organized in a folder. Jessica was already there, pale and furious. Ryan was pacing near the front desk like a caged animal. The moment he saw me, his expression twisted with disdain. You have no heart, Claire, he spat. Jessica's pregnant. How can you put her through this? Olivia stepped forward before I could speak. Maybe she should have thought about her baby before stealing designer bags. The officer returned the items in plastic evidence bags. Everything accounted for. Jessica had broken down in tears during the night and confessed to the theft. They sentenced her to 10 days of detention and an $800 fine. She sobbed into Ryan's shoulder as he tried to argue for leniency. She's carrying a child. How can she stay in detention like this? I folded my arms and spoke calmly. Actions have consequences. Being pregnant doesn't make her immune to accountability. The officer nodded and reassured me the process had been handled fairly. I thanked them, took back my belongings, and left. Outside, the sun was bright but cold. Ryan's voice chased after me, filled with rage. You'll pay for this, Claire. You think you're so righteous, save it, Olivia snapped. And maybe try working on not being a freeloader for once in your life. Back at the dorm, I placed my bags gently in the closet, double-locked the door, and sank into my chair with a sense of quiet finality. This wasn't revenge. This wasn't cruelty. It was justice, wrapped in boundaries I should have set long ago. Jessica had been a parasite, feeding off my silence. Ryan had been a leech, draining me dry. But I wasn't a host anymore. I was the storm that pushed them out. That night, as snow drifted softly outside the dorm windows and the radiator hummed like a lullaby, I lit a new candle and wrote in my journal again. Peace isn't the absence of noisy, it's the presence of strength. It had been over a week since Jessica's detainment, and the dorm halls had returned to their usual rhythm of chatter and half-open doors with K-pop or EDM leaking through. But a curious quiet followed me wherever I went. People didn't talk about me, not to my face, but I could feel their eyes pause just a beat longer when I passed, could hear the faint rustle of whispers trailing behind me like cigarette smoke. Olivia and I didn't entertain the gossip. It didn't matter. My name was clean, and anyone with half a brain could connect the dots. Girl steals expensive bags, gets caught, pays the price. End of story. Until it wasn't. One night, I was alone in the dorm watching reruns of an old crime drama when the door slammed open with such force it rattled the wall. Jessica stood there, face flushed, belly protruding, hair wild like she'd run through a storm. Her eyes locked on me with rabid intensity. You made me suffer, she screamed, her voice trembling not with fear but rage. I'll make you pay. I stood up slowly, keeping my back to the dresser, calm despite the way my heart ticked faster in warning. Don't touch me, I said evenly, eyes locked on hers. She lunged, hand outstretched like she wanted to claw at my face, but I sidestepped instinctively. My body knew the rhythm of self-preservation now. My reflexes, once dulled by trust, were sharpened by experience. I grabbed her wrist and twisted just enough to break her momentum. Her other hand flew toward my hair, and I answered with a clean, resounding slap. Then another. She stumbled back, breath hitching, cradling her cheek as if I'd shattered something vital. "Are you insane?" I asked coldly. "You want to throw punches in your condition? You think I'm afraid of you just because you're carrying a baby?" Jessica's face crumpled and hardened at once, a strange blend of hate and humiliation. "You're jealous," she spat. "You're still in love with Ryan, and you can't stand that he loves me now." I laughed short, dry, brutal. "Jessica, you stole my boyfriend, my bags, and a chunk of my peace, and I still pity you. That's how far you've fallen." Her hands flew protectively to her stomach. "Don't you dare threaten my child. You threatened it yourself when you walked into my room screaming like a lunatic," I snapped. "Now get out before I call security." She hesitated, then turned and fled like a cornered fox, her shoulders shaking but her pride refusing to let her look back. A minute later, Katie peeked through the cracked door. "Everything okay?" "It's fine," I said, pulling the curtain shut and locking the door behind her. That same week, Jessica and Ryan started showing up to lectures together, parading their dysfunctional romance like it was a crown they'd earned. She waddled beside him like a smug duck, and he clung to her as though proximity could make up for poverty. They sat together in every large lecture, whispering and giggling while trying desperately to sell their love story to anyone who cared enough to watch. Their version? Jessica had taken the wrong bag. The police report was a misunderstanding. Ryan was never cheating, just fell in love after a breakup. They were getting married after graduation, moving into his family's new house near campus, and living happily ever after. Olivia nearly threw her iced latte at the blackboard when she heard. "The audacity," she muttered, seething next to me in class. "Do they think anyone actually believes them?" "Let them talk," I said quietly. "A lie repeated doesn't become the truth, it just becomes desperate." Still, I couldn't help noticing the subtle shifts. Katie and Sophie grew colder around Jessica, offering only stiff smiles and curt nods. Olivia and I didn't engage, but it was clear who people trusted now. I let the silence speak louder than any defense. After finals, I packed my suitcase and called for our driver. The semester was over, and it was time to go home. Home where the world was slower, and the air smelled like jasmine and lemon trees. My parents had gone on a business trip to Hong Kong, so the housekeeper met me at the gates, her eyes lighting up when she saw me. "Miss Claire," she greeted warmly. "You've grown more beautiful this semester." I smiled and stepped into the car, letting the door close on the past for now. At home, the air was thick with nostalgia. The creak of the hardwood floors, the familiar hum of the chandelier above the foyer, the faint scent of my mother's perfume lingering in the hallway sit all wrapped around me like a cashmere shawl. I missed this more than I'd allowed myself to admit. I missed the me parents. I thought of how they died in my previous life, how I'd been too busy sobbing over Ryan's betrayal to notice my world crumbling behind me. This time, I clung tighter. My father greeted me via video call the next morning, his smile filling the screen. "You look stronger," he said. "Smarter, too." "I'm getting there," I replied. My mother later transferred $10 million to my account with a handwritten note that said simply, "Buy happiness." Or at least some really good shoes. She wasn't good with emotions, but she loved fiercely in her own way. I lay on my bed that night, fingers running over the gold-embossed edge of the note, and thought, I'm going to build a life so solid, not even the worst heartbreak can touch it. A few days later, they brought me to a networking party. One of those high society, whispered champagne kind of nights, where the room sparkled with old money and sharper smiles. That's where I saw him again, Ethan Walker. My childhood friend. My chaos twin. He was 2 years older, broader now, his voice lower, his face more angular. But the teasing grin was the same. "Hey, Claire Bear," he said, clinking his glass to mine. "You've stopped looking like a bookworm and started looking like a boss." "And you," I retorted, "look like someone who charges for motivational speaking." He laughed and patted my head. Still snarky.
Good.
You'll need that for grad school. I didn't realize until later, when he was across the room charming CEOs with ease, that I had begun to admire him in a way that wasn't just nostalgic.
He shone.
And for the first time in months, I didn't feel tired or defensive or wary. I just felt inspired. After that night, I made a decision. I would pursue graduate school abroad. I would focus on building something of my own, not clinging to what had crumbled. I told my parents over breakfast. They didn't hesitate. Do it, my father said. We'll back you. No matter what. Build your own kingdom, my mother added. But stay close to the throne. I laughed. But deep inside, something clicked into place. I wasn't a victim anymore. I wasn't even a survivor. I was becoming the architect of my own reinvention. The spring semester arrived like a quiet tide, steady and uneventful on the surface, but I could feel the undercurrent stirring beneath. I was back on campus, my mind focused, my wardrobe sharper, my ambitions more defined. While most students were scrambling to submit resumes or chasing internships they didn't understand, I had already drawn the blueprint of my future with precision. Grad school applications, TOEFL prep, a few strategic networking dinners, it all moved like clockwork. I rarely thought about Ryan or Jessica anymore, not because the memory was gone, but because it was irrelevant. That chapter had been closed, sealed with detachment, not bitterness. But some people have a way of crawling back into your life like mildew, quietly, persistently, and always at the most inconvenient time. It was a rainy Friday when Olivia and I bumped into them. Jessica looked swollen. Her belly had expanded dramatically, and she waddled beside Ryan like a bloated shadow of herself, clinging to his arm as though proximity might anchor her crumbling dignity. We were outside a drugstore near campus, caught in the awkward ballet of trying to pretend we hadn't noticed each other. But Jessica wasn't the pretending type. Claire, she called out, her voice sugary and theatrical. I turned slowly, umbrella steady in my hand. Jessica. Guess what? She beamed, rubbing her belly. I'm entering my 3rd trimester. Congrats, I said flatly. Olivia raised an eyebrow but stayed quiet. The baby's perfectly healthy, Jessica went on, unbothered by my frost. Ryan makes sure I eat well. He even does my laundry, washes every pair of socks and underwear by hand. She looked up at him with a gaze that tried too hard to look adoring. Right, babe? Ryan nodded sheepishly. I couldn't tell if he was proud or exhausted. Probably both. That's very domestic of him, I said. Do you iron his shirts in return? Jessica laughed. Oh no, he does it all. He says I need rest. He'll be a wonderful father. Olivia shifted beside me, her posture exuding the kind of subtle sarcasm that made my lips twitch. Sounds like you've got yourself a prince, she said. With no kingdom. Jessica kept smiling. Oh, we've even picked out names for the baby. Want to hear them? Absolutely not, I answered without missing a beat. Her grin tightened at the edges, and for a second, the mask slipped. Still bitter, she asked. Still in love with Ryan? Still jealous of our perfect little family? I tilted my head, feigning curiosity. Have you booked the hospital yet? Heard single rooms go fast. Or will you be in a shared ward? Olivia added smoothly. And did you manage to book a postpartum nanny? I hear the good ones get snapped up 6 months in advance. Jessica's face reddened. We haven't decided yet, she muttered. Well, if money's tight, I offered sweetly. Maybe don't have a baby with someone who can't afford prenatal vitamins. Ryan flinched. Claire, that's enough. No, I said, stepping forward, voice calm but razor sharp. What's enough is the act. If you want to flaunt something, show me success, not sacrifice. Love without security is just a nice-sounding prison. I turned to Olivia. Seafood tonight? With wine, she replied without hesitation. And maybe a little shopping afterward. As we walked past the couple, I heard Jessica hiss something under her breath, but I didn't catch it.
Didn't need to.
That night, over oysters and Chardonnay, Olivia laughed so hard she nearly dropped her glass. The look on Ryan's face. like he just realized being a house husband wasn't on his bucket list. It never was, I smirked. He wanted status, not chores. The days blurred into a comfortable rhythm of study and small victories.
But the peace didn't last.
Nothing gold ever does. A few weeks later, during a large lecture, Sophie leaned over and whispered, "Ryan's been acting weird. Real snappy. He's probably run out of diapers and pride," I said dryly. Sophie chuckled, but later that day, the tension exploded. After class, Katie walked up to Ryan and said, "Jessica called. Said to call her back right away."
Just like that.
A simple message. Ryan's reaction was anything but simple. "What the hell, Katie? Are you her assistant now? You think I'm at her beck and call? I'm not her servant. Don't ever talk to me like that again." Katie blinked, stunned, then turned away quickly, eyes glassy. Sophie ran after her. Olivia and I didn't move. We'd seen this unraveling before, it just had a new script now. By the weekend, whispers were everywhere. Jessica had apparently taken a leave of absence. Some said she was resting for the baby. Others claimed she was staying in a rental near campus and rarely left the house. Whatever the truth was, it didn't concern me. Until Ryan tried to make it my concern again. It was Saturday afternoon and Olivia and I were walking back from a bookstore when we spotted them on the street. Jessica clutched Ryan's arm, her belly now impossibly round. They approached like we were long-lost acquaintances. "Claire," Jessica said with an exaggerated sigh, "I'm so glad we bumped into you. The baby's almost here." "Fantastic," I said, not slowing my stride. "We're naming him Noah if it's a boy," she added brightly. "Or Ava if it's a girl. What do you think?" "I think you should check hospital availability," I replied. "And brush up on budgeting." "Are you angry?" Jessica asked suddenly, her voice dropping into that breathy, fake concerned tone. "Still not over Ryan?" "You're mistaking boredom for emotion," I replied coolly. "Don't flatter yourself. Ryan's so good to me," she said, fingers stroking his arm. "He makes soup every night. Even folds the baby clothes." "Does he iron his own dignity too?" Olivia murmured. Jessica's face stiffened. I stepped closer, eyes steady on hers. "If you want to make me jealous, bring something I'd actually want. Money, power, peace of mind. But all you've got is a man who can't pay for his own kid's formula. You're not intimidatingly tragic." I turned away and Olivia followed. Behind us, I heard Jessica's voice tremble. "Why is she so arrogant?" Olivia and I didn't answer. We didn't need to. My silence had become louder than their lies. And it was only growing stronger. Summer melted into the edges of our campus like honey in tea, slow, sticky, and full of aftertastes. Finals came and went. Olivia and I spent most of our nights in the library, exchanging glances over coffee cups and whispering jokes about who would lose their mind first. Jessica no longer appeared in classes. Word had it she was holed up in their rented apartment, increasingly irritable, always calling Ryan with complaints about swollen ankles or emotional breakdowns. But even rumors have a half-life. People grew tired of talking about her, and when Ryan showed up in class alone, more gaunt than usual and snapping at innocent classmates, no one bothered to ask why. Until one day he approached me. Again. I was walking across campus under the canopy of old oaks when he stepped into my path, blocking the sun like some tragic monument. "Claire," he said, breath short, voice too eager. "Let's have lunch together." I blinked at him, genuinely baffled. "Excuse me? Lunch?"
Just talk.
"Catch up. Nothing serious."
No, I sidestepped.
"Wait," he insisted, catching up. "You're not still angry, right?" "Jessica, and I, well, it's not what it looks like. We've had problems." I stopped cold, turned to face him, and raised an eyebrow. "You mean the kind of problems that result from betrayal, unemployment, and delusion?" He had the audacity to laugh, weak and dry. "Claire, I need help. I forgot my meal card today. Can you just this once buy me a sandwich?" "No, seriously?" "Seriously." He looked stunned, as if he'd misread the entire situation, as if our history should mean charity, as if betrayal could be balanced by pity. When I walked away, I didn't even glance back. 2 days later, while shopping for snacks near the dorm, Olivia and I ran into the circus again. Jessica was heavily pregnant, one hand rubbing her belly like it was a genie lamp, the other clinging to Ryan's jacket. She spotted us, of course, and instantly forced a smile. "Claire, it's so good to see you." "Can't say the same," I replied, reaching for a bottle of mineral water. She strutted over. "I just had my checkup. Everything looks perfect. Ryan's been amazing. He even cleans the bathroom. Made of the year material," Olivia muttered. Jessica ignored her. "We've decided on a namito. You want to hear it?" "No," I said plainly. Her mouth twitched. "Jealousy doesn't suit you. And desperation doesn't suit you either," I replied, stepping forward so she could feel the weight behind my voice. "Tell me, Jessica, where are you giving birth? You've secured a private room? Lined up a postnatal nanny? Or are you banking on Ryan washing baby bottles in the sink?" Olivia chuckled beside me, all teeth and mischief. "Hope you've got a backup plan for the diapers. And your maternity pads." Jessica paled. Ryan scowled. "Why do you always have to be like this?" "Because watching your delusions implode is better than Netflix," I said sweetly. They said nothing as Olivia and I walked away, our laughter slicing the air. By mid-May, word had spread that Jessica had taken formal leave to prepare for motherhood. But the truth? She was broke, isolated, and resentful. Ryan began lurking around the edges of campus again. Sometimes I caught him watching me in the library. Sometimes I'd find strange notes left in my cubby. But I ignored him until he made it impossible. One humid evening after a late TOEFL prep session, I exited the library and felt his presence before I saw him. Ryan stepped into my path, his expression almost rehearsed, apologetic, desperate, a little too eager. "Claire," he breathed, "please hear me out. You have 30 seconds. I need money." I laughed outright. "You can't be serious." "I am. I'm drowning. Jessica's demanding everything. I owe over 500,000 credit cards, online loans, God knows what else. I'm begging you." I stared at him, bewildered. "And what? You think I'll fix it? We could start over. I'll marry you, take your last name, raise our kids under your family's roof. I'll even sign a prenup. Claire, I'll be your slave if you want." "You're not worth the ink," I said coldly. "And I wouldn't trust you with a houseplant, let alone a child." His face twisted. "I made a mistake, okay? Jessica's a nightmare. Lazy, manipulative, broke. You're everything she's not. You're rich, smart, put together. Please, Claire, I'll be better." "No," I said, stepping back. "And don't touch me." But he lunged, tried to grab my arm. Reflex overrode hesitation. My right leg shot up with muscle memory born of kickboxing classes and repressed rage. My heel hit his groin dead on. He collapsed like a folding chair. Olivia, who had just rounded the corner, ran toward me. "What the hell?" "He grabbed me," I said calmly. "So," I corrected him. Ryan writhed on the pavement. A small crowd formed. Olivia didn't hesitate. "Pervert," she shouted. She said no. "You're lucky she didn't press charges." Ryan whimpered something about love, about second chances, about Jessica being a mistake. No one cared. Especially not me. By June, I was finalizing my grad school plans abroad. Acceptance letters, flight bookings, housing deposits, everything neatly filed. One evening, my father texted me, "Claire, that Carter boy showed up at the company again today."
Shouting.
Security removed him. All's fine. I opened the video. There was Ryan, looking like a shell of himself, screaming nonsense in front of the headquarters. "Claire,
You ruined me.
you owe me. Come out." Security dragged him off screen. I watched the footage twice and then deleted it. No pity. No fear. Just finality. Olivia brought me news later. Jessica had a car accident after allegedly abandoning the baby. She didn't survive. Ryan spiraled into debt, then into crime. He murdered a family in a robbery gone wrong. Arrested. Sentenced. Death penalty. The news didn't shock me. It confirmed everything I'd already seen in his soul. Darkness thrives when no one holds it accountable. On the day I received my graduate diploma, the world felt both wide and quiet. I walked across campus, suitcase rolling behind me, and heard someone call my name. Claire. I turned. Ethan Walker stood near the gate, sunglasses in hand, that familiar smirk softening into something earnest. Took me forever to find you, he said. Why? I asked. Because I want to walk into the next chapter with you, he replied. One where we work, build, maybe even love. I looked at him, at the boy who once teased me with gum in my hair, now a man with ambition and clarity. And I smiled. Okay, I said, voice light but sure. Let's build something beautiful. And for once, I wasn't chasing love. I was choosing it. On my terms.